Hey, how's everybody doing? It didn't take me that long. Went to the bathroom and then let me just make sure I'm on yeah, I'm on peaceful. I just don't want to I lost my character over the weekend. I think it was either Saturday. I can't remember if I streamed on Saturday. I think I did. And there's another thing and I don't understand. I know I goofed up, but I was uploading videos online. I don't want to blame it on Twitch because I don't think it was them. I rarely, if ever, stream on the weekends. Usually, because I'm pretty run down by when the weekends come. But like I was feeling good Saturday, so I got on, and I had something I wanted to talk about. But when I was over the weekend, I went to upload a bunch of new videos on Saturday to YouTube from Twitch. And there were a bunch of them that somehow I put in the description that I had done them on Saturday and Sunday, and I'm positive I didn't do both days. I don't think I did either one, but I did that. I don't know what I did. I got the wrong date. Again, I've had some days where I'm just not all that coherent. I now have to go back to the bathroom. The walking loosened something up, so I got to go. I'll be right back. Hang on a sec. Okay, well, gonna do a. I think he was playing Hermitcraft before. I'm not sure, but Impulse is again. I can't. It's all frozen, but he's beautiful. The stuff he's building is just beautiful. Mira is looking really really good. She's worn this bikini before, but she looks so good in the bikini, I don't care. And then her friend, she's got a friend on. And normally when she's got some friends, they're still attractive, but they're not. They're not. This one's almost as attractive as her, so it's a double feature. Jade the Jaguar is actually on screen now, streaming. It's a thumbnail, but she's in a really really cute outfit, and Fire Dancer's got a dress on, and she looks really good in it. And Mosh is on stream from Ukraine. She's cute. She's really really cute, and I just gotta say, as a Star Wars fan, some of these girls are just looking so attractive that you wanna think of them as one of those trees on the forest moon of Endor, and you want to get on your land speeder, your little speeder bike. But okay, we'll go ahead and get this going. Okay, mic check, mic check, mic check. All right, and for all the new people, again, if I'm talking about the same subject from one to the other, I will try to do like broad notes on the first one, and then if it's something you're interested in, you want to be here, and if it's something you're not interested in, you can maybe skip it. Really hope you don't, but you could skip it. And what I'm gonna do is I am gonna have to look certain things up because I just can't remember it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go somewhere where I have to sit, like this one here. This one I can pretty much do. And I got killed over the weekend. It was either Saturday, I think it was Saturday, and then it was Saturday after I streamed, and yesterday and last a little bit I had left on Saturday. I've been trying to rebuild, and I now have golden armor, and I might keep it because I've been going into the nether, and this way as long as I don't open a chest, the fucking piglins won't attack me or whatever those things are. Um, and sometime this week, I'm gonna wait for a day where I'm gonna wait for a day where I feel better than what I do today. Hopefully, feel better than I did over the weekend. But I gotta go into, because this is my last pair of elytra, and I have to go into the nether, or the end, and get some more elytra. So, and it's I gotta build. I think I got some rockets, but I'm gonna want to build some more rockets. I'm gonna have to go creeper hunting, and but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go somewhere where I can kind of camp out and get pumpkins. And I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about this for a little bit, and then I'll go somewhere else, do a couple things, and then go somewhere where I can camp. Like I can come back here and harvest all that nether wart, and then camp out while I talk about this stuff. There was a guy, a World War II vet, and I had never. If I heard about this guy, I didn't remember it. Faced it, and the thing is, even without the memory problems, even without the health problems, I forget names. I usually don't forget faces. This guy's face did not ring a bell. I don't remember this story. There wasn't even like oh wow, it seems to me that I heard something about this. None of that. And what happened was he was a lot like he's the he's the billionaire real estate guy that owned Skinwalker Ranch before Brandon Fugel did. And when I get there, I will look him up too, because I couldn't remember his name last time, and I can't remember now. But there was some of this story that really made me think of him and Brandon. And it kind of creeped me out a little, especially when I found out, like when I got to the end of it, because and I'll go into detail, but there was some of this stuff that I heard where I'm like, oh my God, that's what's going on at the ranch, and he seemed to find a way to solve it. They need to know about this. If they don't already know, they need to know, and if they do already know, they'll probably appreciate me pointing it out. But a lot of this stuff, over the years, I always put this into the crazy camp. I like, the Dulce, New Mexico stuff. like when they were talking about the stuff going on with it, I just put it in the crazy camp. Like there's another one where some guy was supposedly talking to somebody in the future on on a computer. There's the stories where you've got like there was somebody that there was a video, and the video was supposedly a captured UFO alien, and it was a conversation with him, like an interview or an interrogation or whatever you want to call it. I always put that stuff in the crazy camp. I really did. But in light of what they are discovering on Skinwalker Ranch, and with some of the stuff that is being reported coming out of Congress now and out of the military, I don't know. I'm not saying it's true, but I think we got to keep more of an open mind about it. I really do. And there's a lot. I think pretty much after after some of the stuff that's come forward from like credible intelligence people, like the way they were talking over the weekend, that Grouch guy that came forward and did an interview on News Nation with Ross Coulthart. Apparently they went through the blow by blow, and apparently he had gone to the inspector general and told him what he knew. And the inspector general went to Congress and said that what he told him and what he, because the inspector general has the security clearance to go look this shit up, apparently. That was one of the things they said. Like, they got that representative, God, I just did a podcast on him recently. He's a Republican representative from Tennessee, and he is just gung-ho on this UFO thing. Like, and the thing that gets me is he is saying stuff that usually you don't hear until the person is out of office. Even if they believe it, he's saying stuff that generally you don't say while you're in office. You don't, like, usually it's when you've lost your election and you're a lame duck, or you've already put in your notice and you've got like 3 to 6 months and then you're resigning and going home, or you've lost and you're out of office. That's when people generally talk like he does. And, but here's the thing. Hang on. He was talking over the weekend, and he was asked about the UFOs, because he said they're gonna, and this I covered last week, because he had done this last week, and he might have done this last week, but I didn't see it until over the weekend, and I fucking just, it was either Friday night or Saturday. I was dying laughing. I'm like, oh my God, people, hey, good for him, but people usually don't talk like this until they're already out of office, till they've got nothing left to lose. And he was asked about the UFOs, and he goes, well, yeah, we're gonna do hearings end of the month, before the end of July. He was asked who they were bringing. He goes, he goes, we've made an agreement. He goes, we're gonna keep it really close to the vest. He goes, I don't know if we can prove it, but he goes, we are positive that the military, the Pentagon, has intimidated some of our witnesses that we've wanted to talk to before, and they either came in and didn't tell us what we wanted to know, or they just didn't come in. And he goes, if we have to, we're going to subpoena them. The only thing, my understanding, and I'm not 100% sure on this, is military people, intelligence officers I don't know about, but military people I don't think can appear without the permission of their commanding officer. Even if, like, Congress would subpoena them, you'd have to go to court to resolve it. Because my understanding is their CO can block that. You'd have to go up the chain to somebody else. And I could be wrong, but that's my understanding of it. And But he was asked about the common thing you hear about these UFOs that, well, if we piss them off, they could turn us into charcoal briquettes or something like that. They could zap us. And he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, I don't think we're in any danger because he goes, I agree with that completely. He goes, they are so far beyond us, it ain't even funny. But he goes, if they were people that were going to cause us harm, he goes, I think they'd have already done it because there's nothing. He goes, I've seen, and he said, I've seen the classified videos that are out there. He goes, there's nothing. There's just nothing we could do to stop them. And then he goes, well, and the interviewer goes, well, okay, well, what about the people that say these might be Russia or China? And he made the comment, he goes, come on. He goes, Russia doesn't have these. He goes, we know Russia doesn't have these. He goes, the fucking ego, he didn't swear I'm doing that, but he goes, the ego that Putin has, if Russia had these things, he would have landed one on the White House lawn, came out bare chested, and wrestled the president to the ground and then got in and took off. He goes, Putin would have done that. He goes, I am positive Russia doesn't have these. And then he goes, and as far as China, if China had this stuff, they would already own us. He goes, they would not be doing what they're doing now. He goes, they would already own us. Because he goes, I'm telling you, I've seen them. There's just nothing we can do to these things. He goes, there's just no way. We could not defeat them. Well, anyways, yeah, I can't think of the guy's name, and I really don't want to waste the time looking it up because this tablet I got is kind of slow on stuff. But it's a guy that owned Skinwalker Ranch. He's the one who created the NIDS team. And around the time that he was selling the ranch, his aerospace company was going under. Hey, how you doing, Lucifer Bringer? Thank you very much for coming in. There was a podcast I was watching, and the guy made the comment that this guy, when he got Skinwalker Ranch, started getting all these contracts and money thrown at him by the defense industry. That's when he created. He was a billionaire land developer. He did not have an experience in military contracting. Suddenly, he's got like a top-notch thing. He's getting contacts thrown at him. And he said, they go, well, do you think the government's kind of clamped down on him? He goes, as soon as he came out about UFOs, his aerospace company went under. He goes, you tell me. He goes, I really think that the government took him down. I absolutely think that they took him down. Okay. Now, this Bennewitz guy, he really reminds me of that guy. And he earned a bachelor's degree from Arizona State, but no formal training in electronics. Native of Kansas, but he went to school in Arizona. World War II, he was a radio electronics engineer for the Coast Guard. I'm not sure what happened there. Hang on a sec. My Amazon tap is working, but it's really old, so it acts up. And I think it just rebooted. I don't know. It chirped, and I don't know why it chirped. Connected to Bluetooth. Okay, it's back on. Mic check, mic check. We working? Yeah. And World War II, he worked for the Coast Guard with radio. So he got into, communication. And then he worked as an engineer for San Francisco CBS and another one in Tucson, Ohio, or Arizona. So after World War II and during World War II, he got involved in electronics for communication. That's what he knew. And I don't know if my speaker took a shit again. In 53, he moved to New Mexico and started working for Galton Industries. This is on Wikipedia. If they're wrong, I'm wrong. And later he began his own industrial sales company. And then in 66, Bennewitz acquired the rights to a humidity sensor from Sandia National Laboratories. He then founded Thunder Scientific. So this is in the 60s. A small family business. Now, they're not really saying it here. They're not saying it in here, but the thing I watched over the weekend, and again, I'm only repeating what they're telling me. I really don't know. According to him, the video that I was watching, he actually started getting military contracts, and he ended up going and basically buying a house real close to the military base where he was doing his work. So he'd be close to work. And that's not here. There's none of this. Then in the 70s, yeah, the Scientific Thunder did about $1 million in sales, but profits had waned over the recent years. In 78, Thunder employed 30 people, but by 81, that number dropped to 18 employees. So again, it was like this guy that owned Skinwalker. It seemed that, again, maybe just bad business, or he had a falling out with the government and he was having to cut people. He's trying to, and then the guy that had the ranch, he sold the ranch and his aerospace company went under. This guy had something real similar. And they're saying in the 70s, Bennewitz became a member of Arizona's Aerial Phenomena Research Group, APRO, APRO, a civilian UFO investigation group. But by the mid-70s, cattle mutilations had become associated with UFOs. And on April 20th, 79, U.S. Attorney R.E. Thompson, U.S. Senator Harrison Schmitt held a public meeting about cattle mutilations. The meeting was attended by about 80. One attendee was Paul Bennewitz. And then, now this one here I have seen, and I got to tell you, I'm not going to tell you not to watch it. I did not find it a very well-made documentary. I'm not saying, they weren't presenting good stuff, but it was hard for me to watch, and that could be because I was having a bad day, I don't know. But I watched that a couple different times, and I could just not really enjoy Mirage Men. But Mirage Men includes the suggestion that government agents likely first identified Bennewitz at this meeting or outright targeted him for his participation. At the meeting, Bennewitz was introduced to Highway Patrol Officer Gabe Valdez, who was investigating the incidents. Bennewitz later listed July 79 as the beginning of a personally funded study into UFOs. Bennewitz reportedly began filming strange lights and recording unusual radio signals over Kirkland Air Force Base. Kirkland's the one where he moved next to, according to that thing. And that Mirage Man, this is what I'm saying. I don't think it was very well done because I've watched it a couple times. And again, this could be me. I don't necessarily want to blame them. But when I was watching this thing, this all seemed new to me. And I think I was having trouble following it. Well, this one that was done over the weekend, I didn't have any trouble following it. And my health was not great for the last several days. I haven't been real clear-headed. And I was able to follow what was on that. Mirage Men really, I don't think was very well made. Now, the thing I do want to add here is I'm not saying every case is real. I'm not saying there are not bad people out there making shit up. But I actually believe in cattle mutilations. And I've never seen one. But the reason I believe it is one of my uncles, and as he got older, he had to cut back. This was a guy, my Uncle Cal. This is a guy that always wore a cowboy hat. He wore them at funerals. He wore them at weddings. And he always had a cowboy hat on. And I heard through the grapevine from the family that he had cattle mutilations. And I don't expect anybody else to believe it, but I know my uncle, and I don't expect anybody else to know him. My uncle was not someone that would lie. He just wouldn't do it. He was about as honest as the day was long. He's very anybody that's as half as hard of working as he was is a great person. He worked his ass off. He was an honest guy. He didn't claim to know what it was, but he knew the effect of it, and he was experiencing it. So I do believe in cattle meat just because of him. I haven't seen any. I've seen them reports on it, but I do believe that it's real. I don't believe necessarily every one of them is real, but I do believe it's real. Um, so this is kind of the backstory of this Bennewitz guy. And I don't know. Hang on. I'm going to get a couple minor things done and then I'll park it and continue, because some of this I want to give it to you right. I'd rather take my time and be a little more careful, because like I said, I just heard this over the weekend. I watched that Mirage Men, and it could have been that, because that one there, I think I was probably watching either when I was just waking up or falling asleep, but I don't remember any of it. I might actually rewatch it now, as long as I can still watch it for free, because it really wasn't that good, and I'm not paying to watch something that's that shitty, but in my opinion. Uh, but but it freaked me out. It really freaked me out, and as I'm kind of biking around here trying to get back to my other base. Um, Because, like I said, just certain things they were talking about this guy, some of it, Bigelow, that's the guy that owned the ranch before Frazier. I can't remember what his first name was, but yeah, Bigelow. And it was Bigelow Aerospace, I think. I think that's the name. Um, some of that was real reminiscent of him. You had a guy that didn't have any experience in military contracting or aerospace. He was a billionaire real estate guy, and then boom, just as soon as he bought the ranch, well, this guy here, he had a degree, but he didn't have a background in electronics, because of what they taught him in the military, he made a career in communications, but he again wasn't an expert military contractor. Um, like if he got a job where he was doing contracts for the military with communication stuff, that would make sense. But for him to do the stuff he was doing, and I don't really want to go into it that much, but for him to do the stuff they said he was doing, it wasn't really his wheelhouse. And I'm not saying that that has to stand out as a giveaway, but you got to think about it a little bit. That it's like, how is he getting this contract when there's probably people far more qualified? So what was going on? And but again, who knows? Maybe he just had a really good sales rep. Maybe he had one of those minds where he didn't necessarily have to be trained on stuff, but he could figure it out. I really don't know, but I'm just saying you gotta consider it. And so what happened was, yeah, I'm not seeing it in the. Okay, now this they didn't really. If they covered this yesterday, I didn't catch this. In 1980, state police in Cimarron, New Mexico, received a report from a woman calling herself Myrna Hansen, not to be confused with the movie star of the same name. describing a story involving interplanetary visitors, ETs, bright lights, herds of cattle. Police in Cimarron referred the case to their colleague in Dulce, Gabe Valdez. Now, if I remember right, Valdez was kind of mentioned as a cop who was also in APRO, who they knew to be the cattle mutilations guy for his interest in the cases. Valdez in turn collected Paul Bennewitz. So this might be where this guy, now maybe it was when he joined APRO, maybe this is the one, but this might be what got him into, ET. You know, it just, a believable story by, somebody where you could be the good Samaritan and help them out, so on and so forth. I gotta get some. I was I was watching an episode of West Wing last night, and I just got to throw this in there. Uh, the president took his staff out to California. Uh, One of their guys, deputy communications director, had agreed to run. Had basically agreed to this widow that if her dead husband actually won, because the way the rules were, you couldn't replace. He died before the election. Well, you couldn't replace him on the ballot. So the only way to get, and sometimes when that happens, if the person dies and if they win, the wife or somebody, it depends on the state. All that's by how the state runs things. Well, he agreed to run if her husband died and they had to do a special election. Well, they all decided to make a presidential trip out there to support him. And it's a long story, but I don't want to, because there was like a whole confluence of things. At one point, the president's character goes, "How come every time we come to California, it's like the Clampetts came to California?" He goes, "We just fucked things up." And he didn't swear, I did, but it was funny because the guy who's the actual communications director, his ex-wife wanted his sperm so she could get pregnant. She did not want to get married again. She didn't mind him being in, because she wasn't really dating anybody. She just didn't want to get married, and she was happy with him being part of the kids' lives. And she was kind of trying to pick a fight. She wanted these redneck, racist, misogynic people to pick a fight. And sure enough, she was getting sued for lying to the voters for not. Well, she's out there, and one of these drunk country club hillbillies out in California in Orange County, well, he starts getting on her about stuff, and she's like, 3, 4, 5, 6 months pregnant. So the communications director kind of gets in between the drunk shithead and his ex-wife, because he's been trying to get her to marry him. And when he said, "Look, people are going to come after you, blah, blah, blah," and then she admitted that she kind of was waiting for him. And he kind of stopped. He goes, "So you're picking the fight?" And she goes, "You damn right I am." He goes, gets real quiet. He goes, "I can respect that." And he didn't really know what to say to her, but he goes, "I can respect that." Well, what happens is they end up in jail, and they're in the purpose of being booked, and they're talking. And you find out what happened. The drunk guy that was attacking his ex-wife, well, he got mad. He went to go do something. Well, he was so drunk he fell over. Because the cops are saying, "Well, you assaulted somebody," and the communications goes, "He was drunk. He fell. I didn't assault anybody." And the cop goes, "Well, we were told that somebody got punched and dropped." And the guy who waits on the president, Charlie, he goes, "Oh, Yeah, that might be assault. Because what happens when the guy got drunk and fell, his wingman, who was pretty fucking drunk, thought somebody hit him. So he went to attack either the congresswoman or her ex-husband, and Charlie dropped the dude. and and it was funny because when he was getting out of prison, when they were found out they could post bail with a credit card in California, he called the new deputy communications director, and he made a comment. He goes, "Oh, are you out of jail for attacking that guy?" And he goes, "You heard about that in D.C.? Because that made the news there." And he goes, "A Jewish guy won a bar fight." He goes, "That's news everywhere," or something like that. Oh, anyways, back to. So I'm sorry, but I do want to cover this. But this might be where this guy got into UFOs. Hansen and her son traveled to Albuquerque to meet with Bennewitz, staying in his home. Hansen explained to Bennewitz that on May 5th, 1980, while she was driving with her son near Eagles Nest, New Mexico, they had witnessed two large silent objects, approximately the size of Goodyear blimps, hovering over a meadow. APRO director James Lorenzen suggested, they got a thing on here that this needs a clarification, suggested contacting Leo Sprinkle, a psychologist and tenured professor at University of Wyoming who had been investigating UFO contact reports. And so they arranged for her to go and get hypnotized. And Bennewitz insisted it be conducted in his car, parked inside the family garage. With the car, oh, okay. Now this is where usually you lose me. But he insisted that it be done in the car, parked inside the family garage, with the windows covered with thick aluminum foil. And then it's got a thing relevant. Yeah, well, hey, if that's what really happened, it is relevant because and again, I would usually view this as an indication of mental health problems. I seriously would. During her first regression, she reported a recollection of a cow being sucked into a hovering spaceship by tractor beam. But again, a lot of this stuff that I used to think is crazy, when you're hearing some of this stuff, okay, maybe the tinfoil's bullshit. I don't know. But if these people are really experiencing something that's overwhelming to them and they don't know what to make of it, then by God, maybe, just maybe, they're trying to find something. And maybe it's PTSD. Maybe it's something that they're going through because they've got something like a PTSD or something like that after the fact. And here's the other thing, I'm going to skip over this, and you can go, this is on the Wikipedia page, you can go check this out yourself. I've given you a hint of it. But here's the other thing, you got to stick with me to the end before you can judge this, because this is what I went through. What I'm telling you now might get you thinking one way. Well, then what I'm understanding really happened is going to pull you back another way. But yeah, she under hypnosis, she had reported recollection of being abducted and taken to an underground base with body parts floating in vats. Okay, and yeah, and this covers the Dulce War. There was a video, and this kind of connected to it, and then I'm going to try and jump it over to Skinwalker Ranch. I'm going to skip over to the thing I was watching over the weekend. But this, I guess, is there's this thing where there's this video out there, and I'm not kidding you. I'm not saying maybe it isn't crazy, but the guy really seemed fucking crazy. And he fucking died shortly thereafter. But this guy came forward. There used to be video, and I can't think of the guy's name, but there used to be video on YouTube, and he was at one of these UFO conventions or something like that. And he was an engineer or something else. And I don't think it's this guy, because the picture they got for him in here, that guy didn't look anything like him. He was bigger. He was stockier. He didn't wear glasses from what I remember. I might be wrong on that. But this guy said that he was an engineer working for the government. I don't think he was military at that time. I might be wrong. And he went underground and he didn't know any of this. And then suddenly an alien saw him and would have killed him, but a special forces guy tackled him and got shot. The special forces guy sacrificed himself to save this guy. Well, then he got opened up by a laser, and he's got this fucking huge fucking wound in his chest. It looks like something ripped him open. It is not surgical. It's it to me, from what I remember, and it's been a while, it looked like a pretty horrific, but again, you don't know that it's an alien, but that's what he claimed, that they shot him with a laser or something, and he showed you the wound. And he said then the military got him out of there, and they were targeting him, and the dude just sounded fucking crazy. But again, maybe he's not lying. Maybe it's PTSD. I really don't know. But he died, and then and I always considered this shit nuts. And now I don't know. With you've got that one intelligence guy that came forward, Grouch. We know who he is. And there are senators basically saying, it's being leaked out of the Congress that the senators have gotten other people with high-ranking clearances in the intel community that are coming forward and backing him up. They are coming forward and saying that to cover up this UFO thing, people have been killed. I don't know. I'm not saying this is true. I'm not saying it doesn't sound fucking crazy. But maybe we got to just keep an open mind until we find out what's going on. I'm thinking. I don't know. Well, anyways, going on to that video I watched this weekend, he sat there and was doing this contract. Well, he started seeing stuff in the sky. And like I said, this thing with this woman might have been what urged him to investigate it a little bit. Or if he was already investigating it, maybe this is what made him turn it up to 11. But he was seeing things. Skinwalker. They've got that there. Like what they were describing, he reported. We're seeing it on their footage in the show. And then the other thing that they were saying is he was getting those gigahertz signals. And I think it wasn't quite the 1.6. It was either it was something like a 1.2 to a 1.7 or something like that. But he was getting those gigahertz signals. And they said that those are generally only used by the military. They're used by the government. And he worked on decoding it because, and again, this goes with Skinwalker Beyond, because they said that he was seeing what looked like packets. And there was one of those new episodes of Beyond Skinwalker where they were showing it. It wasn't just a steady signal. It was like pulsing. And this is his wheelhouse. He had a background in communications at this point. He'd done it for decades. So he started treating it like it was like some kind of a communication, and he started trying to decode it. And they said that he got a computer and he at least wrote the software himself. He might have even wrote the operating system. That I don't know. Because when this was back on, this was probably before you could go get a Macintosh or an Apple or a Windows. But it sounded like the way they talked, he might have wrote the operating system. He might not have. He might have just wrote the software, and he couldn't get it to decode it. And then they said what he did was he started using what he had learned from, while he was in communications. And it's like really basic crypto. He's not an expert at cryptography, but apparently he understood it. And this might go back to when he was working for the Coast Guard during World War II. But he had some basics of cryptography, and what he was saying was, or what they were saying was, is that he basically told, and like if you go watch that, God, I think the movie's called The immigration game or something like that. It's that guy that broke the. It's that gay scientist, that gay computer guy that broke the German cipher, the one that was unbreakable. And he started doing like what that guy did, where you started out and you tell it, okay, these are the words you're gonna see a lot. Now, like with him, and I can't remember his name. The really shitty thing of that is what he was doing being gay was illegal, but the government protected him while the war was on. Nobody could touch him. He could be himself and everything was okay. Well, then as soon as the war was over, it was sometime after the war, then they fucking let him go. That guy was a hero. We might not have won World War II without it. And again, I'm just, and this is one of those things where, that and some stuff that happened during the Bush administration, I started to realize that, no matter how much it bothered me and made my skin crawl, that homophobia was actually putting us at risk. And this was the thing. I'm sorry, if you could keep that guy okay when you needed him, then it should have been okay later, because that guy was a hero. And again, I'm not even upset that it was not done unilaterally, but for what that guy did to protect us during World War II, he should have been protected for the rest of his life. That guy was absolutely a hero. And that to me morally it felt wrong. And it was the same way with some of the stuff that went on in the Bush era. It's like, my God, if you got somebody that can properly interpret, the fucking people that want to fly planes into our buildings after 9/11, it was like the terrorists. Well, they had somebody that they had to kick out of the military because he was gay, and he was like the best interpreter they had. That right there, I'm just like, okay, now, I'll be homophobic quietly, but I'm sorry, our safety has to come before my mental health problems of being homophobic, of being bothered by it. Can't afford it anymore. You just can't. This is something, I just got to grow up a little bit and deal with it. Because, and again, I got to be honest with you, if they had taken that person and said, hey, we're going to pay you 10 times as much as you made in the military, you're going to be a contractor for the CIA or the FBI, and you're going to basically be able to sit here in civilian clothes, and you're going to be doing the same job tomorrow that you were doing today, I'd have been okay with that. That would not have bothered me. But it's like when they kicked them out of the military and they put our security at risk, I'm like, we can't afford this anymore. I'm sorry, no matter how I felt about it, we can't afford this anymore. We can't. But what happened was, I'm going to cut down some trees, I think. Yeah, we're waiting for that. Yeah, I can cut down some trees. And, but this guy, he started, let me see if I got, oh yeah, we got Silk Touch. I didn't have that yesterday. That's why these beehives are still here. He started seeing stuff, and I've mentioned that a couple times now. And so he started investigating. Like I said, he started working on decoding that thing. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, if they are not aware, and I had just heard about it. This was not something I had known before. But I'm like, oh my God, this is something the ranch should know about. Because if this guy, and again, I hadn't gotten to the end. You haven't gotten to the end. Bear with me. I'm going to present it to you the way it was presented to me. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to want to know this, because they might, if they can follow what this guy did, it might give them a hand at decoding these messages. Great. And the other thing I had mentioned to them is they had this guy on there, and I'm not even going to try and remember if I remember his name, I'll let you know, but he basically worked for Bigelow on the NIDS team. And then when they were starting to get those 1.6, 1.4 gigahertz signals on the ranch, Dr. Taylor, Travis, he on his own went to the government, requested a meeting. He got to talk to somebody at or connected to the Pentagon, and he just wanted to make sure, because again, I've heard it said in that one yesterday or Saturday, whatever it was, but the one over the weekend, they had said that, these were primarily used by the government. So he was worried that they were maybe coming in on some government signal, and maybe they should steer clear of it. And what he was told was, no, that is not our signal, and we don't know whose it is what he was told. So they kept fucking with it. And I'm thinking, oh, great, man. This guy apparently figured out a way to decode it and find out at least, maybe not word for word what it is, but he was pretty sure that he was getting a guesstimation of what it was saying, because when he started giving them, okay, these are the primary words that you're going to see a lot in here. These are the words you're going to see the most. And so he was pretty sure he was getting at least, he was getting an idea of what the message was, even if it wasn't exact. He was pretty sure he was getting an idea of the message. Okay. I got to keep going until I get enough. I can quit. Oh, I think that bee's gone. Yeah. Yeah, I gotta. I forgot these were here, and when I lost all my shit, I found these in here. So I'm like, oh, okay, I got a shitload of chests in there. But no, but he did, and I'm like, wow, this is just like on the ranch. Well, then the other thing is they were talking about how he was being surveilled. And I'm like, that's just like the ranch, because this isn't new. It's maybe a little more predominant now, but this goes back to maybe the first season, where they had some unknown helicopter going over. Not even it appeared to be terrestrial, but they had stuff flying over it. And from what they are saying now, it sounds like it's illegal to do it. But they've had multiple times where somebody flies over it in a helicopter, and there's no transponder, because on the ranch they've got the equipment to read the aircraft data if they're transponding. It's not military aircraft, but it can basically, on the ranch they've got the equipment that will basically grab the transponder and let you know the flight. You can look up the data on it. Well, they've repeatedly had things flying over the ranch that don't have one. And it was just this season where they said, well, that's illegal. They can't do that. And because earlier they had said something, well, they thought that maybe if they were going to keep it under a certain distance, like a certain height, or if it was just a short hop, like somebody crop dusting or something like that, they were thinking maybe they didn't have to. But it sounds like no. If they're in that area, they have to have the transponder going to alert other aircraft so they don't have like a collision up in the sky. And but I'm like, oh my God, this is what this guy's talking about. There's this shit going on. I'm like, okay, this is eerily familiar to the ranch. So I'm like, oh, you guys got to get on this. This is the same shit you guys are talking about. And and I did, and I told him, I go, look, I usually find this stuff to be insane, but with what you guys are uncovering on the ranch and what's coming out of Congress now, maybe we got to take another look at this. Maybe we got to have a little more of an open mind than I have on some of this stuff. And I really don't know. And then when you watch it a little bit more, this guy ended up in a nut house. This Bennewitz guy. His son had to take over running his company. He ended up in a nut house. He died in that nut house. He never recovered from this. And then they said what they found out, and they made it sound like it's a known thing. And my understanding is there's a guy, he was either a major or a colonel in the Air Force, I do believe, and I might be wrong, but it seems to me that he has admitted to doing this. He ran some kind of a disinformation campaign out of the military back when he worked for the, I think it's the Office of Strategic Information, OSI or something like that. That's what they were saying in this video. If they're lying, then I apologize, but I'm not purposely misleading you. This is what they were saying. But I think he has admitted to running that disinformation campaign. And they were talking in there and I think it's that guy, Gabriel Valdez. Yeah, I think it's that guy that was the cattle mutilation cop. But I think that was the guy. I might be wrong, but he would go to this guy and give him information, and he'd say, "Look, you can't show it to anybody, but if you help me out, I can expose you to I can get you some of this stuff that I can get you without getting in trouble." And all he wanted at first was just general information, like, well, how does certain people feel about this? Hey, these certain people, if they're gathering, let me know so we can monitor them and stuff. It was things like that. Maybe not that exactly. But he was just keeping tabs on people in the UFO community, is what it sounded like. This is what they were saying in that video. I think it was the Y files. And it was something about the Air Force. Something about the Air Force that killed somebody or something like that was what the video was called. And it was roughly 8 or 10 months ago. If you're 8 months, you're a little early. And if you're at the year mark, you're too late. You got to go in that. You got to find the Goldilocks spot in there for their videos. And but he was basically, he'd give that guy, and it sounds like some of them were real. But again, as the guy understood, he was a cop, so it was probably, probably easy for him. Well, yeah, there's things I can see that you can't just show to everybody. Well, he did this. Well, then what happened was, this guy was decoding these messages. He was recording these things he was seeing in the sky, or at least taking notes on it. Well, once he had enough, he went to the Air Force. Now, the Air Force wouldn't publicly talk about it, but they started basically asking him, well, hey, you keep on this and just update us when you got new information. Well, then you find out that this Richard Doty guy It was, from what they're saying, it was all a disinformation campaign, and that's something here. Gabriel Valdez's son later commented on the minor Hansen story as follows. It's possible that the Hansen story was also part of a disinformation campaign. I will go out on a limb here and say that the story of Hansen was probably a well orchestrated hoax because of the very important fact the listening devices found in my dad's house. The government heard all the conversations on the phone between my dad and Bennewitz, so such a hoax would be relatively easy to accomplish. Hansen came into the picture in May of 1980, and the Air Force did not even acknowledge contact with Paul until November of 1980. Although the evidence can be barely viewed as even circumstantial, it would explain a lot of things and how and why they transpired during the 80s based on what we currently know. But when they did that thing, they had a clip of Doty. And this is the thing, and I don't really want to tell anybody else what to do, and they brought this up in the Y files, that Richard Doty has single-handedly done more damage with his bullshit when he worked for the Air Force. He's done more damage than any one person, probably done more damage than any group of people in the UFO community, and he's still somewhat respected in the UF community, and I'm like, I see that as a view of mental illness. This is a guy, I'm sorry, I don't think the UF community should, my personal opinion, you have your own, but I don't think the UFO community should have any respect for this guy. I don't think they should have any trust for him. But they did say in the Y files that somebody they had talked to in their investigation or something they had found, it sounded like Doty might have been fired from his job at OSI. My understanding, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but my understanding is the military and like the CIA and I think the FBI, they are not allowed to run like a misinformation campaign on the U.S. public. Now, like in the course of law enforcement, yes, they can lie to a suspect to get a conviction, but especially the Army and the CIA, they do not have a right to do anything on U.S. soil. So what he was involved in from the Air Force may have been illegal. And they were saying on the Y files that he might have got fired from his job at OSI because of what he was doing. But then what gets me is, and they showed a clip of it. I talked about it, I think, in the earlier stream, when that Valdez guy, I think it's him, it's the guy that he was using. He gave that guy a document, told him to give it to Bennewitz, because what they were doing is they were going to get him to go big. He was going to show this document, and then what they were going to do is they were going to expose him as a fraud. They were going to ruin his reputation. And when the guy saw it, he said, I'm not giving him this. You changed things. This is not the original document that you had shown me before. And he basically told him, he's like, well, you can either do what I'm asking you, a real simple thing, or you'll never see me again, is what they reported in the Y files. And so he did it, but it sounds like he told Bennewitz, don't share this, please. Don't share this with anybody. You get to see it. We can talk about it on the phone, but don't share it with anybody else. And because he was honestly trying to look out for him. Well, then this Bennewitz guy went nuts. Somewhere along the line, he went nuts, and he ended up in a nut house. And he died in the nut house. He never recovered from it. And I just want to say, if you're going to be skeptical, I want you to just understand one thing. I can't remember when they did it. I honestly can't remember when they did it, but the CIA formally apologized. They were basically dosing people with LSD, and I want to say they were doing it for at least 10 years around the 80s. And they had a lot. They finally got bad enough that they had to quit, but they did it for, I believe, over 10 years. They were dosing people with LSD to see what the results are. My understanding is that if you get into the story of the Mothman prophecies, some of what they were doing with LSD is what was causing that. Now, whether the LSD was making people see something that was there that normally you couldn't, or whether it was making people see things that weren't real because it was fucking LSD, I don't know. But that they've admitted that. They apologized for that. So don't just on the face of it say, well, the military, the government would never do that. The government has done some horrible things. If you go back far enough, our government gave blankets that were infected with smallpox to Native Americans to commit genocide. Our government, I'm not, and again, I don't know. I just keep an open mind, because you can't sit there seriously and act like, oh, well, they would never do that. They've done shit as bad, if not worse. They've done it. We know they've done it. And doctors at one point prescribed heroin, laudanum, and other stuff. Just over the counter, you could go buy it. You could self-medicate. And again, that was a mistake. They used to put Coca-Cola. They used to put Coke in it. That's why it was called Coke. They put cocaine in Coca-Cola. I found this out like when we were kids, and we really liked Coke, or at least I did. And my dad hardly ever drank it. And then we asked him if he wanted one. He goes, well, if you're going to get me one, I'll drink it. And then he was drinking. He goes, this shit you guys drink nowadays, it's flat. And we're like, what do you mean? Well, that's when we found out. They go, well, they used to put cocaine in it, so it had a lot more kick than when it just had the caffeine in it. That was the way it was. And but anyways, so this guy died in a mental institute. And it sounds like that gigahertz signal was done by the government. That's the accusation that they made in there. They did some horrible shit. They did the surveillance on him to get him paranoid. And so I really gotta wonder is, and again, I don't trust the guy, but I will just put it in there for disclosure. That Richard Doty, he has come forward and said that, yes, we ran that campaign. We didn't purposely put him in a nut house, but they wanted to discredit him. And the thing he said, and this is what they brought up in the Y files, that if you're going to run a good and effective disinformation campaign, usually the closer you can stay to the truth, the better it is. Because if you're somewhere near the truth, then what'll happen is when people investigate it, they might find things that'll be like, oh yeah, this sounds real. Where if you're just making stuff up whole cloth, I prefer not to lie. The way I look, especially now that my memory's got issues some days. But if you tell the truth, you only got to remember one set of events. It's just a lot easier. It really is. But but Richard Doty said that maybe not everything, maybe it was distorted, exaggerated, protect the truth. But he said, maybe 90% of what he told the guy was true. That's his claim. I don't know. But when the Y files pointed out that, it would probably make the whole thing a little more believable if you stayed with the truth. That made sense to me. That literally made sense to me. And but that's the thing. And then but with the Skinwalker Ranch, that really just like fucking wow. So is that gigahertz signal something real, or is it the government fucking with the team on the ranch? That surveillance, does that surveillance really need to be there? Or is that surveillance just there fucking with the ranch? And you really gotta wonder. You literally. But here's the thing: like, there's been certain things, and the biggest one is, and this was first season. Uh, Travis got hit with like a massive dose of either gamma radiation or X-rays. I can't remember which it was. It caused like blistering on his head and on his hands. He had to have stuff go done to his bones because something happened to his knuckles, and they had to go in and grind off some fucking growths and shit in there. Um, and this is the thing I want. And again, I reached out, I think, to the ranch over the weekend, and I couldn't remember if I had or not. So I did reach out to Brandon Fugel on his Twitter account, and I'm like, hey, look, this I just found out about over the weekend. I don't remember this from before. And I go, I haven't been having, I haven't been having a great few days. So I go, I can't remember for sure if I did reach out to the ranch account on Threads. I think I did, but I'm not sure. But I go, just give this some consideration, because I go, this guy had some stuff happen to him real similar to what is happening to you guys. And I go, so it might be the government messing with you, but here's the thing. If they are, you almost have to think that what are they trying to cover up? What are they trying to distract you from? And what are they trying to cover up to get you to look here? If there wasn't something going on at that ranch, they probably wouldn't care. So there, I mean, again, whether it's ET or covert action, there's got to be something there that they're worried about, or they wouldn't be bothering with this shit. Or could it possibly be something real? You just don't know. I don't think you can say anymore. But that really freaked me out over this weekend when I saw that. It really did. And then the other thing I mentioned to him over the weekend, if I mentioned, and I know I thought about it, I just can't remember if I did it. But the one guy that was there, and he's the guy that was there for NIDS, and he also was the UAP task force director. He told them a story, and again, I don't know. Travis, I think, believes the guy, so I'm at least willing to, consider it for right now. But when that guy was there, he talked about an incident that happened when they were there with NIDS. There were 3 or 4 guys that were all patrolling the grounds or whatever, and they all saw something different. Like, they all saw something. It was some glowing object, but and I might not have this right, but at least it gives you the gist of it. One of them saw, say, a circle, the other one saw a triangle, one of them saw a square, and I think the other one saw like an oval or a rectangle, if there was a 4th guy. Every one of them saw something. Every one of them saw it in the same place. They talked about it, but every one of them saw a different object. And I just finally came to the conclusion over the weekend, and I think I mentioned it on the stream Saturday, but I'm not sure. But I mentioned to him that, hey, if that's true, then I don't know if you guys can even trust your sensor data. Because if you've got something, whatever it may be, whoever it might be, but I go, if they can alter your eyeballs, if they can alter your brain to make you see different things, they can probably much more easier affect your sensor data and your cameras and shit like that. So you might not even be able to trust anything you're seeing on even the sensor equipment. And then it dawned on me, because I think I tweeted that out to the ranch, but I'm not sure. But I also pointed out it was one of the earlier seasons on there. Travis had been at home in Alabama, and I think he had one of those hitchhiker effects. Well, he had access to the ranch cameras remotely, and he just wanted to see what was going on at the ranch, because they're trying to get data on whether, when people from the ranch are experiencing something back at home or away from the ranch, if something's going on at the ranch. And he described like bad weather and all this other shit that he saw from the camera feed. And then when he came, from what I remember, and if I'm wrong, then hey, understand this is the problem I have with my health. When I'm lightheaded, my memory isn't always that good. But it seems to me that back in the day, in one of the earlier seasons, he came back to the ranch and he had Eric pull it up because he's like, well, yeah, I had this thing happen at home. I saw this thing at the ranch. Well, he brought up the fucking camera or cameras that Eric looked at. He brought it up with the correct date and time stamp. And what Eric had there was different than what Travis saw live on the camera when he looked it up. And so again, can you really trust your sensor equipment? Can you really trust your camera equipment? I don't know that you can, but it's interesting that you have this problem. You have to consider that, like, yeah, maybe this is really going on. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get a little bit more done, and then I don't know what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. If I can think of something that I can kind of talk about on the Skinwalker Ranch, but I think I'll have to talk about something else. But oh my God, that I can't really begin to say how much that affected me. But when I found that video to watch, like I said, I might even go back and watch the Mirage Men. I don't know if I can get it done by tomorrow. But if I watch the Mirage Men, I might do a podcast on that. Maybe I can kind of get you thinking one way or another, and maybe you'd want to go watch it too. But again, it's not a great documentary. And the other reason why I might be viewing it kind of because it's got that Richard Doty. They interview him a lot. And I just don't trust the guy. Like with what he's done in his past, I just literally do not trust that guy. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. And like I said, I don't think it's every day, but every now and then I find out that I had like 5 or 6 people that found me. I've got 2 new subscribers on here. So I do appreciate it. Thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a good day. Not going to end the game. I just want to end the stream.